What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Dome Zone podcast. I'm here again with my co-hosts, Ed Charlton and Mike Adams. And today we have a special guest, Nick Dini, who is the Wagner College career leader in games started and games played, correct? 215.
Does that still check out?
215 each.
Stat and a half.
Still first place.
No, you don't.
Iron Man.
He was a
Iron Seahawk.
2015
Iron Seahawk is a thing.
2015 draft pick who reached the majors in 2019. Everybody welcome Nick Dini to the show.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Oh yeah.
Ooh, theatrics.
Ooh, little flair.
This guy's got it.
I do what I can. And I know we wanted to get into the topic today of analytics in baseball, and I think it's good to have Nick here because he is in a unique situation being a catcher, and especially being a catcher at the big league level probably provides you with some challenges dealing with analytics from the offensive and defensive standpoint, I would imagine.
Oh, yeah. 100%. So that was, like, for me, the biggest, like, whoa moment was when you do get up to the big leagues because the Royals weren't really analytically driven at the time when I was there, and there really was no intro to that at the minor league level, and then you get to the big league level and you're trying to, go and perform, but also understand all the prep that goes into like catching a major league game. So at that time it was like very, very new, and then I started slowly getting the hang of it and understanding what it is that you look for when you're putting game plans together. And then I went and played in other organizations, and it just became a little more, natural for me to do it. But it also, there was a lot more feedback from the organization as far as like, scouting hitters. So it got a little bit easier as it went on. But when I first got to the big leagues, it was very challenging. So, felt like I got the hang of it, but a little too late.
Does it? Yeah, I feel that. Does it ever feel like when you look back on it, there are certain things where you're like, damn, I really looked way too far into this and it kind of messed me up in certain places?
Well, that was a really good question. That was always something that it's hard to manage that, right? Because on one end, it's almost like you take your natural feel out of the game, right? Because they give you these reports and it's like maybe you see something that day. Maybe this guy's stuff's doing something, or maybe you see something in a swing that you're like, you kind of want to go off script, but like you don't want to get beat there, because if you do, it's like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? So it's exactly like you have this information where it's like you get a little more gun shy about, maybe this sinker down and in here is a good idea, but hey, this guy slugs to the inner third. Do I want to be the guy that looks like an idiot because I tried to go here? Or is there, some rhyme or reason to it where, like, when you don't think about the analytics, it's just like you're letting the game play out and then you make a decision or a pitch call based off what you're seeing and trusting your eyes. You know what I mean? So that was always the hard piece to kind of navigate, was like not going off script, but also like, man, you got to play the game a little bit.
It's true.
There's definitely a battle between two. Like, do you want to die on the hill of throwing your best pitch or going off of the pitcher's, like, analytically what his best pitch is, or do you want to go off of where the hitter struggles? And I think that's where like a lot of it gets construed, is now the good teams are in that situation, like they're throwing their best pitch, and not like, if this guy struggles with a curveball and you got like a fastball slider guy who has a curveball, like you're probably going to go with the fastball or the slider that that has a better like chance to perform than are throwing his third pitch just because that guy can't hit it.
100%. And that's why, like, it's good to see these hitters' tendencies, but you just said it, man. Like, it's hard. You have to go with pitcher strength over everything, in my opinion. You don't play to a weakness of the guy on the mound to cater to a weakness of a hitter. Like, hitting is hard.
Right. You're gonna fail on the mound. You're gonna fail with your best stuff.
100%. And that's what I've learned is like, dude, I essentially, like, as I got older, what I started to do was I would go around to guys, and obviously I would get these, reports, and having conversations with pitching coaches and the guy on the mound, and it's like, hey, what is your best stuff? So, like, a couple questions I would ask is like, what off-speed pitch can you go to for like with a ton of confidence to get back into account? So 1-0, 2-0, what do you feel good about that we don't want to give in and just groove this guy a heater?
Yeah.
What do you feel comfortable with? What's your best swing and miss pitch? And those are like questions that I started to ask, and it helped simplify a game plan, but also and what it ended up doing was matching up to what the analytics and the data is saying, right? It's like, hey, this guy has X amount of vertical break on his slider, or a horizontal break on his slider. We're going to go to that. You know what I mean? And I don't care what the hitter's stuff says. It's like, I'm going to die on the hill of this is this guy's best stuff, and we lost with a best on best. I'm not going to cater to what that hitter's doing. So as I started, I learned how to simplify it, and most of the times when I did simplify it, it ended up being, hey, this kind of matches up with what these reports are saying.
So I think that's where like analytics got a little bit of a bad rap early on. It was like, hey, this guy sucks at this, let's do that. And now teams are like, all right, they're drafting and they're looking at this stuff and making decisions like, hey, we think this can produce this results. So like they're just dying on that hill with throwing the best pitch that they know the chances are of it producing, no matter what the hitter does, no matter what swing path he has, no matter what the count is. Like, we know that if we throw this pitch at this amount of, in this area at this clip, it's going to produce well. And I think that's why it's gotten, like, you now see everyone kind of getting on board with, like, oh, that makes sense. Like, why does this guy have so many whiffs on his fastball? Up. Like, it's got to be good. Like, let's not throw that down anymore. Let's throw that up. And boom, there it is.
Well, and because most of the time, too, you look, right, especially, like, good hitters. Like, so when you're putting it together a game plan, it's really you're trying to avoid slug, right? Yep. It's like, hey, these are professional hitters. They're going to get their base hits. If you keep them on first base, you're okay. They got to beat you a couple times. You're trying to stay away from damage. So what you end up realizing is like, okay, you look at every hitter. A lot of them are very similar, dude. Yeah, they're going to be blue up and in. Mm-hmm. Like that's a damn hard pitch. That's a damn hard pitch to hit.
Hardest pitch to hit in baseball.
But like I'm finding myself. Like in 2019, like, dude, I look back on my career and the time I got to the major leagues in 2019, I was dog shit behind the plate. Like I really was. I got there because of my bat. I was kind of, a late bloomer in the sense of catching. Like I got to the position late. So I'm trying to kind of learn on the job, and the bat kind of helped me like progress through the minor leagues. But I just didn't so I'm looking at these reports and it's like they're blue up and in. So I find myself like, all right, like we got to attack up and in, dude.
Just call everything up and in.
That's first off, how many guys do you know are commanding heaters like up and into the
I've
hands
never
for
tried to
strikes?
throw
That's
in
what I
there on
mean.
purpose.
It's like
Nobody just rams it up and in every time.
Exactly. So it's like I'm finding myself going to this zone because the chart says it's blue and there's no slug there, and it's like next thing you know we're 2-0 and it's like, all right, how do we get out of this hole that we're in? So it's like as I left Kansas City, I went to the Mets, and then I landed in Tampa, and I was there for my last year, and they kind of, being with them, kind of opened my eyes to, like, how simple. Like,
when you play them, it doesn't seem 0-0, huh?
No.
The game starts, they already have a little bit of an edge before the ball even gets rolling.
And, Mike, what's crazy is, like, from the outside, you look at it, and it's like, how does this team consistently, with the payroll that they have,
small market,
continue to just win? They're
always in it.
Every year, every single year, right? And it doesn't matter. And it's like, oh, you see this guy? Hey, they just claim this guy off waivers. Next thing you know, he's
good.
He's got a 2 ERA and he's an all-star. I've seen it. I played with guys in Kansas City that went to Tampa and they're all-stars and getting paid because of how and. Like going there and seeing how they go about it, they simplify everything. Like taking such a complex game and with all of the data and all of the nuance that comes with it nowadays, they just simplify it. Yep. I got there and it's like, dude, you're a kid. Sit down the middle.
I wanted to talk about this a lot because this is like becoming a huge thing in baseball now, and it's and for good reason, because like. Catcher, anchor, middle, like one of the things that we implemented with the Phillies, but we watched who was the catcher for the Rays?
Was it Bethancourt at the time?
I think it was a guy before him, but
Zunino?
Yeah, it was Mike Zunino. They were like, hey, look at Zunino, and they put him up, and every pitch, his glove is dead down the middle, and they're like, in an 0-2 count, it moved an inch. He never had his glove outside of the zone, like when they have the K zone, and that was something that made so much sense. It's like on their end, they're drafting, trading for, and building players that have such good stuff that it doesn't matter where it goes in the zone. As long as they can get in the zone, it's going to produce good results. So, like, you have teams that are drafting, we have this guy, out of wherever that's thrown 88 to 90, throws 4 pitches for strikes, really moves the ball around. Or we have this guy that throws 96, 4 really good pitches, but, like, he sprays it a bit. And they're taking this guy, and they're saying, hey, right down the middle, and they're like, throw everything you can right down the middle. And boom, now you have, like, such a high ceiling reliever that can throw more strikes all of a sudden.
That's you said it, man. That was what really stood out to me. Like, there was an example. I played with Jason Adam in Kansas City.
Yeah, nasty.
And you watch him, big body, upper nines with a yacker, and just couldn't really figure it out in Kansas City. And then you see him, he catches on in Tampa, and resurgence, all-star, like, highly sought after, and it's like they just literally told him, throw it down the middle.
Here's what you do well.
Exactly.
Do that more.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's like, because, and here's another thing that I think gets lost is, like, from the pitching side, that's one thing, and then but you look at, like, from an offensive standpoint, and it's like, dude, it's not really hard to hit in plus counts.
No.
Like, and I don't want to say it's not hard.
It's easier.
It's a lot easier. Like, when you're constantly in the driver's seat, it's much easier. You can take chances. Exactly.
You can guess, and you can
take your shots.
You could take your shots. Where, like, dude, when you're constantly 0-1, 0-2, it's like you're defensive.
Man.
You're defensive on the offensive side. So it's like just the simple idea of, like, hey, get ahead.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Throw your stuff. Like, how many times do you see? Because here's another thing that I think. A lot of times when guys get beat, right, let up homers, it's like, missed spot down the middle. But what you don't see is the 10, 15 other missed spots that they hit that are just fouled off or taken or swung and missed that. You know what I mean? So it's like, you could pigeonhole it and look at, the one time they did get burned, but there's 10, 15 other examples throughout the course of that game where he didn't get beat on that. He got ahead and probably ended up getting the result that he desired because he's attacking and he's getting ahead of these hitters. So when I got there and I saw that, it was like, dude, this makes so much sense. Like, just sit down the middle, throw your nasty shit, get ahead, and then we put them away. And on goes.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So
I think, too, one thing they do well is, like, identifying what is the pitch you can use to get ahead. Not everyone commands the fastball really well. Like, I know we have a bunch of guys that command a cutter at, like, 70% and the fastball at, like, 60. It's like, all right, 1, everyone loves hitting fastball. So 2, let's throw the cutter in all these counts, 1-0, 0-0, 2-1, 3-1. Let's throw that, and then you can use the other stuff behind it. And people always have that idea, like, let's establish, the fastball. Dude, you remember in college they were like, let's try to get through the lineup with throwing only fastball. My fastball sucks. I got shelled every time. We never got through the lineup without it. It's like, but stuff like that, like, why don't you take the pitch that you throw in the zone the most that is higher stuff rated than your fastball, throw that majority of the time, and then use the other stuff off of it? And that's what people do now, which is like, makes it even harder.
100%, especially as a hitter, right? Like you said, everybody wants to hit the fastball. You look at a lot of work that people do during the offseason, it's getting your swing in a position that you can handle the fastball. Like,
you think as a hitter, too, like, you get into a plus count, you're like, all right, here it comes. Here's my shot.
There you go.
And then you get a cutter or a slider that a guy, like, just feels good with getting over. And it's like, God damn, man, like, when am I going to get my chance?
And then what does that do for you as a hitter when it is too like when?
Well, now you're thinking more. It's like, all right, well, what's coming now?
Exactly.
Like, then you get the heater and you take it, and you're just like, God damn it.
Yep. you got to get people off the heater, in my opinion. You know what I mean?
They would always talk about, like, hiding the heater. If you look at the bottom 10, like, run value pitches in the big leagues, it's all heaters, all guys that have an average heater that throw it too much that it just gets crushed. And it's like, all right, if that's a bottom 10 pitch in the bigs, like, why are you throwing that so much? It's not that good.
It's not working.
Go to something else, hide it. Like, that's something that, like,
well, you're almost it's become the, like, counter, like, complete opposite of what it was, right? It's like establish the heater, and like, to an extent, like,
some guys definitely.
That's what I mean. Like if you can establish the heater, if you got a good fastball and you could command your heater, that's still a good pitch. I mean, but like the ability to get people off of the heater and keep people guessing. It's like you never feel comfortable. You know what I mean? It's like, because what does that do? It affects your judgment and it affects your decision making. It's like you're trying to get exactly. Yeah. Like you really have to pivot on the plan in its totality. And you said cutter, dude. I think every pitcher, if I was, which I'm sure I know you guys are doing, but like I would try to implement some sort of cutter
Hard
wrinkle.
ball,
yes,
yeah.
like
that's like everybody's throwing a cutter.
That's what's been
right
like I mean, every year there's like kind of just a new fad that goes on. It's the sweeper, it's the seam shifted sinker, it's the splitter, and now it's like they're realizing that the harder the breaking ball is, the earlier you have to make a swing decision, and those things are producing. One, they're producing more contact and they're easier to throw in the zone. They're almost producing better than sweepers now. Like the first year, the sweeper like had a great, like performed really well. The second year, not as good. Then the cutter comes in. Now they're throwing both. Now guys are starting to throw a decent four seam and a decent sinker. So it used to be like, yo, you have two really good pitches. Let's throw those two. Now it's like everybody has five that they're going to, which is also crazy.
Dude, like I said, like guys that had and could command a cutter and throw a cutter for a strike, it was the easiest games to call ever.
When in doubt, cutter.
Dude, it was just like I don't ever have to feel like I'm giving in. So it's like you get behind 0-1, 0-2 or 1-0, 2-0. All right, here's a cutter.
Yep.
Up and in at your hands, or any like middle, and just let it work. And a lot of times too, that's gonna keep pitch counts down because
100%.
guys are just putting weak contact.
In 2-0 count, like everyone wants to play for the swings and misses, but like in a 2-0 count, your best result is getting them to hit the ball.
Action.
If you get them to swing and hit it and get an out, like then you don't have to play for 3 whiffs. You save your 3 pitches.
That's
go to the
it.
Next guy. And that's been something too that like wasn't really valued early on. I think that's where the analytics starting to change. Like before it was like, yo, like Ks per 9, and now it's starting to be like K percentage. So like if you go and throw 2 innings, give up 2 hits, walk 3, punch out 6, and somebody else is going in 2 innings, punch out 3, no hits, no walks, nothing. It's like, all right, normally it's like, yo, that guy 6 Ks, that was sick, but it's like, yo, that guy went just K'd 50%.
Yeah.
So it's like you gotta, how you can value guys is a lot different. I think when I like having the Stuff Plus and the analytical part was like the easiest thing for me when I went in there. I never played pro ball. Like I played indie ball like 5 years ago. So I'm going in there like, how do you know you're any going to be good? Like you literally don't, but just knowing like, hey, I know that this pitch analytically is good. I can rely on that. I know this one's good. I can rely on that. It's like gives you the confidence to throw those pitches and know that they're going to fare well. And I think that's why guys draft like that. It's like, all right, we know this guy's not going to get hit. If we can get him in the zone like a little bit more and change up how he's using pitches, that guy can be really good. And I think that's like why analytics are so important.
So you would say like you would just look at stuff and then say, all right, now we just pitch, or now we just devise a plan.
Like, hey, like let's get the guy with the best stuff, and like let's build out a plan. Like we always talk about, like people say throwing more strikes. Like how do you throw more strikes? One, like where you set up is crucial. Like you see how many times a catcher sets up on the black 0-0 and they throw one 2 inches off and that gets called a ball. Like you actually hit your spot.
Yeah.
Like, if you're setting up middle, you miss a little bit in, you miss a little bit out, you're still on the dish. You're controlling the count. 2, it's like there's pitches that you can throw that are going to have a higher in zone rate. So the less break and the harder they are, like the cutter, like a gyro slider, whatever it may be. Like those things, they don't have the big movement that you need to start in and work it to the corner. It's like if you back up a cutter up and in, like you're still getting a swing. It's still hard to hit.
Still an awkward pitch to swing at.
Yeah, so it's like the results there are great, and then like just knowing what pitches are going to get you what results. So like guys that have those big curveballs, they come up out of the hand, they get a lot of takes normally, just because guys are like thinking dead red, they see it up, they kind of get in that zone like, I'm like relaxing here. Same thing with like sinkers to like the glove side. Like if you're a righty's on the hill throwing like a sinker backdoor, like that's starting so far outside that they're not going to swing. And the same thing with a righty throwing to a lefty, like a backdoor slider. It's like knowing pitches that one are probably going to be free strikes, like that you can throw all the time that are hard to swing at, like and how you use your stuff. Like you can basically change how you can control the count. It's why you see guys that literally can't throw strikes to like Alvarado. Like he started throwing that cutter. He went from like a bust to one of the most reliable relievers in the big leagues, like no matter what. And he doesn't have good command, but he throws a pitch that theoretically he does now. But like he throws a pitch that he can throw hard that won't get hit, that he can throw all over the zone. It's like stuff like that you can change, and that's why people go from like college with like a 5 to like the show.
Yeah.
And like they have a 2. You're like, how is that possible?
Yeah. that's fun. When did Alvarado start throwing a cutter,
when he got to the Phillies.
dude? Because
Yeah.
I faced him in spring one year. Like
Yeah,
that's
it's nuts.
it's electric.
Like everyone waits for that 100-mile-an-hour fastball, and his fastball, like metrically, if you look at it, like he has a good sinker, but it's nothing like it's not like that's such a plus fastball.
Yeah.
And mostly because he doesn't command it, but like he just throws cutter, fastball. You're out.
Yeah.
You know.
That's it. No, it's definitely changed. So I couldn't agree more, man. I think the more simple, because I think in the beginning of it, like we weren't really sure, and I say we, but like the industry itself was like didn't really know how to mesh analytics with like on-field performance and like giving people something like like I said with Tampa, man, like the ability to keep it simple as possible is, I mean, you see it, man. You see guys that didn't really fare well in other places that just they do that. They simplify their approach to things, and it becomes more simple.
You see now, like some of the teams that went all in on analytics and got rid of a lot of the baseball guys, in general, in the org that would help be around guys. They went straight up, all analytics, a lot of nerds around with iPads,
mathematicians,
and like it doesn't mesh really well with players all the time. But you see now, like they're starting to gravitate towards, all right, let's bring back some of these baseball guys that can help, with the situational and the feel. And like there are decisions you got to make, with some feel sometimes. And it's not all just analytics.
Oh yeah.
But like, again, like when the analytics are there, it's tough to not use them.
It's kind of like what I was saying with the catching side of it, right? And that's like from like an organizational standpoint too. It's like, hey, these numbers are here. Like what do we have to invest more into? You know what I mean? Like, and what is the feel side of the game?
The first time I got like a peek behind the curtain of what, catching in the big leagues looks like, we were all still in college, and one of my buddies was up in the big leagues. He was with the Mets at the time, and, he's on the plane, and he sent me, they're playing the Brewers. He sent me the whole report that he had to make on the plane for the Brewers if he was catching. He wasn't even catching that game, but like he sent me the whole thing, and it was like I'm watching how they're gonna attack Ryan Braun, who's like one of the best hitters in the game at the time. And I'm like, man, this is wild, and like to me it was like there's so much more that goes into this game at that high level that like I ever realized before, and it was really cool to see. Like for me, it was like, oh man, this is eye-opening. Like these guys got to actually, this is a job. They're not just going out there and playing baseball.
No.
It's work,
dude. I said that like for me, like catching specifically, I was more mentally exhausted after a season than physically. Like I could play 12 months of the year, really.
Right.
But like if all of the stuff that had to go into playing a game, that was the stuff that made the game was the easy part. You know what I mean? Like it was everything.
Yeah, you guys
beforehand.
probably had to think way more than I. Like I was.
Oh my goodness!
Stuck my ass in the outfield.
Yeah.
And all right, who's on the mound? I never got past low A anyway, so I was gone quick. But like you see the scouting report of the pitcher. All right, here's the velo, here's the pitches. Good luck.
Yeah.
So like I was just, all right, let's go play outfield and go hit. And, if we get a little bit of info on the guy, great. If not, whatever, we'll try to figure it out.
Exactly. And like from an offensive standpoint, there's guys that want every single piece of information. And then there's guys that are like, nah, just tell me like what his fastball does.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And they keep it extremely simple.
I think that's where, a lot of orgs go wrong too, is like, they're a little bit scared to like give the data out, which is like, it's a double-edged sword. There's definitely guys that like are going to overdo it. But if they're not overdoing it with analytics, they're overdoing it with something else. That's just their nature.
Exactly.
So it's like for us, like I would much rather build an environment where everybody knows what their strengths are. Everybody knows what their plan looks like to actually be good. And like, hey, like yesterday when you pitch bad, like I would have loved to know some of the times that I pitched bad. Was it a bad pitch? Like, was it a bad location? Was it a bad call? Like, without any of that, you're guessing. So, like, it takes a guessing out. And that's where it's like, for me, like, I remember so many times. It's like, I go back and look at it. I was like, fastball up, it carried. Like, good hit, Or it's like when you put your head on the pillow, it's like you're not even really sure. Yeah. And I think that's too where it can come into play and it can help you value, like, who's good. Like, kind of what we talked about with that outing earlier. It's like, do you want to, like when you're a GM and you're looking at a double-A starter, Like he throws 5 innings, 3 run, punches out 6, right? Like those 3 runs, did he give up, 2 infield hits and a 3-run homer? Did he give up 7 line drives that were caught? Like how can you value who's going to be good? And I think that's where it's becoming a lot better to determine, like, hey, we think Paul Skeens, we can take him and put him in the bigs and he has a 2 ERA. Like if you told me that, I've been like, I don't think so. But like when you get him in there and you look at his stuff and you're like, all right, well, you build out a model that can basically predict what's going to happen. Like you draft based off of that, and that's why so many guys are going up there. It's like we know this stuff is going to play at this level, and it just takes a guessing out. And that's where, like, if you don't, like, the good teams are doing that, and if people really think that there's like no value in analytics, like that's pretty obvious. They're drafting first rounders, putting them in this.
You can see how the game has gone. Like this year especially, I feel like there's so much young talent in baseball. Everybody's getting called up right now.
Yeah.
I think
it's cool to see.
I think too on the hitting end, it's like when you're drafting a guy, it's like if they make good swing decisions, like that's a really good sign that
swing decisions and high contact is highly valued.
Yep, like but like you
but
can
also
look at
being able to slug.
You can look at a guy that's hitting like, hey, this guy's 250, but like his barrel percentage is maybe 10% higher than somebody else who's hitting 270 who got a couple. Like how do you hitters is way harder because you talk about like,
well, you go to all the expected stuff.
Yeah, you go like you're looking at average, like that's not always indicative.
Yeah, like expected WOBA is like a huge thing to look at. Where like, all right, like did he get on base here? No, but like what would happen most of the time in that situation?
Because there is a luck factor in this game.
Absolutely.
Like there just is.
It's not there's no absolutes.
No, there's
like
not.
That.
So like from the offensive side, like there were 3 like big pillars that like the Tampa for instance, they cared about. Swing decisions was a huge component. Like if you're swinging at good pitches, that was because and what you have to do too is like you have to try to map out like, okay, if this guy is in AA and he has a 36% chase rate, right? Like that's gonna uptick the higher it goes. You know what I mean? Like that's gonna keep going up, right? Or the swing and miss percentage is extremely low. It's he's got a 15% swing and miss in AA. That we have to assume that probably upticks. So it's like, you're seeing what that guy is doing now, and then try to project like, hey, what does that look like at the next level and at the next level? So. But what I was saying was like if you make good swing decisions, that's a huge part of it, right? You swing at good pitches, your chances of your results, you're putting yourself in a good spot. Swing decisions, hard hit, and swing and miss.
Yep.
Those are the 3 things. So it's like if we can kind of get those 3 things, then we can kind of map out, hey, this is the kind of hitter that we think this guy's going to be.
We've talked about it in here a bunch. Like if you're drafting guys, how we would want to do it, like how we value stuff and think about, hitting and offense is like you're going to draft guys that make good swing decisions, guys that hit the ball hard and like they make a lot of contact. Because you can, in theory, with what we believe in, like how, we worked with you with the hitting and the swing, it's like if you can tweak the swing now to create, you can tweak swings to create loft. Yeah. Like you can take a guy that has a really good hit tool and you can help him drive the ball more because he knows how to hit the ball. Yeah. He's got that tool. And it is a tool. It's a knack.
For sure.
And like it's harder to develop the hit tool than it is the slug tool.
100%.
You get guys that come in the league all the time, huge swing and miss, big swings. When they hit it, it's crushed.
Yeah.
But like that guy it's harder to produce all the time. We touched on it last week a little bit, but like Schwarber Arias. Schwarber, last year specifically, obviously he's having a career year this year. The average is way up. He's making way more contact. He's highly valuable right now. He's obviously really good. But like, if you have him hitting 200 with 30 driving in 100, or Arias hitting, under 400, who are you taking? Who's more productive? And I think, with what Schwarber's doing now, like everybody would say Kyle Schwarber in 2 seconds. Mm-hmm. But like everybody gets all gaudy and over Luis Arias's, batting average, which is great too. It is obviously valuable. But like that's harder to do.
Well, and that's the thing, right? It's like I think we're still in this, this phase where it's like the old versus the new, where it's like the people that are stuck in their beliefs, they just will refuse to see like the
baseball
behind
purists.
the scenes. Exactly. Like they'll refuse to look at that, right? Where you take a guy like Luis Arias, and now in my opinion, you're talking about the best bat-to-ball guy in
Ever.
Probably, maybe
He's
ever.
the modern day Tony Gwynn.
Exactly. Like, so you're taking the absolute best at that specific skill, and you're comparing him to somebody else, and everybody, for as long as time, it's what's their batting average? What's your batting average, right? Like,
That's how you were measured as a hitter.
Exactly. That's how you were measured as a hitter. Where now it's like, dude, there's so many other like statistics and variables that you can look at to really quantify what this guy is as a hitter.
Yep.
And it's like, is Luis Arias, like, he's awesome. He's awesome to watch. But the people that just solely want to say, hey, this guy has a higher batting average, it's like, what is more important?
Well, if Schwarber's on base is higher than
Well,
his, who cares?
I was literally just gonna say that.
He walks 100 times, drives in 100, and scores 100. That dude is valuable as hell.
I was literally just about to say that. It's like, dude, we're getting to a place where it's like, I say all the time, man, like especially like now, like talking with kids and like trying to teach them the game, and it's like, when you're young, you get pissed when you walk. I'm like, dude, you got to learn to love to walk.
Oh yeah.
Take your bag.
That's it. Like, you have to learn to love and appreciate. Dude, I would get if I walked in a game, I viewed it as I just got a base hit.
I hated it when I was younger. I was like, I want to hit.
No, same way.
High school was the worst.
Yeah, because you want to hit, because like you roll up to the field, you're better than everybody else. But then you, like, as you continue to go, everybody you're playing, they're equally as good, and it's like, dude, if I could get. There's a lot of good things that happen from a walk. Your on base is up. Your OPS is up. You're like a lot of
puts
metrics.
Pressure on the pitcher.
Exactly.
With a runner on now.
There's a lot of things to like. So I just think we're still like in this old versus new. Like, and most of the people that would say Arias, they're still stuck in the 90s, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Like, there is something like, dude, it's really cool what he's doing. Like, that's
it's fun to watch. It's cool as hell.
Like,
this guy goes 4 for 5 every game,
and he just like struck out for the first time in 130 at bats. Like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, he struck out twice since the All-Star break.
That's insanity.
It's nuts. Yeah.
Like, especially in today's game where stuff and the guys that these teams are churning out left and right. It's like, dude, that is super, super impressive in itself. But like, if you're looking at a guy that's going to hit 40 home runs, he's going to hit what is Schwarber hitting right now?
He's hitting like 260.
Damn.
That's like almost 100.
I mean, dude, he was value. Like, I don't think people
that.
understood
We'll
his
fact
value
check
when
that.
he was hitting 200 with like an 850 OPS.
Yep.
Like, that's the kind of stuff he was doing.
And that's where like these good teams will look at Arias and like if they have a couple guys like Schwarber and Arias in the same lineup make each other way more valuable.
He's in 250 this year.
Because Arias on base or hitting 300 in front of a couple guys. I mean, you put him on the Dodgers and he hit in front of like Freeman and Ohtani. All of a sudden, that guy is crazy. On the Marlins are like,
he's got nowhere to go, really.
Nowhere to go. So it's like that's where the good teams can take pieces and make them way more valuable than what they are on their own. And
Exactly.
I think that's where like the good teams start to like find some gold for themselves is making moves like that. Like, hey, we know this guy does this, but if we can pair it with these guys in the the middle of the lineup, then he's going to be even more valuable.
They like Tampa would legitimately create a lineup based off WRC.
They had I remember they had the first ever lineup that was like all lefty, top to bottom, I guess, because they knew they had a righty heavy pen that day, and the starter was a righty. But from top to bottom, they didn't.
Yeah, that's
lefty.
That's legitimately how they called people up.
That's another advantage. Like, that's kind of what I'm talking about. I feel like this even more like in college when you look at it. Like there are some teams that are so good at this that are getting an advantage, like just before the game even starts. Like, hey, we're setting ourselves up for like, the 7th inning when they want to bring in this guy.
Yeah.
Like we have all lefties in the lineup, and they're going to bring in a lefty, and we have 3 righties that we're going to pinch hit. And and it's like stuff like that where people don't even really realize that they're doing that puts them at such an advantage where they can. And the other thing they do is they build up these prospects, and Yankees do a good job of it too. Like they build their minor league system up, and then they trade them for big leaguers.
Yeah.
Like Yankees have like 50 minor league guys that are all playing on other teams that are doing solid, but they trade them for these pieces, and that's how they build their team.
Yeah.
Unlucky for the Yankees, a lot of the guys they traded for have not produced a ton, but like you're trading a guy who's never pitched in the show that was a AA prospect for a guy that's now going to come in your lineup and like hit 5th.
Yeah.
Like that's why they're never going to be bad. It's one thing that I think about
the
the
Dodgers
Phillies.
do the same thing.
Dodgers, same thing. Like the Guardians, Mariners. Like the Mariners have 5 homegrown starters in their rotation. They're the only one.
Look at the Padres right now.
Yep, Padres too. Yep,
Yeah,
it's something I think
Padres
the
are
Phillies
pieced
will
together for
struggle
sure.
is because, like, we don't have any of that. We basically just bought all the guys, and anybody coming behind, like you'll see, like we can't even find a starter to pitch after Walker. Like, how many guys are we going to run up there?
Yeah.
Like, we don't have one guy. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
like they don't value the minor leagues as much. Like the Yankees, like they have a bunch of. They just DFA'd Ron Marinaccio, like who has a career 3 ERA, 113 innings, 137 strikeouts. Like that guy's going to go. He went to the White Sox, and he'll literally be their 8th inning guy probably.
Yeah,
That's the kind of talent that they're just shifting in and out. That like, if you can do that and you can find how's valuable, like you can just ensure that you're going to be a winning team. Like the Guardians, like they haven't won the World Series, but they since like 2016
Another one.
Just
like Tampa.
Since 2016, they have the most wins in the bigs or something like that.
It's crazy.
Like, and they haven't won yet, but they have all homegrown players, and they haven't traded for any big name guys.
You know what I saw, and listen, I loved my time in Kansas City. Like the people are great, lifelong friends, everything. At that time when I was with them, what really stood out to me was I don't think that they looked at every player in their organization as a potential big leaguer.
Yeah.
Where I think that these organizations that do that really well, every single player that comes into that system, they look at this guy as a potential big leaguer.
Yeah.
So, yes, are the top of the high draft picks, are they going to get a little more leeway? Absolutely, and that's fine. That's how it works. But, like, I also felt like, dude, I went to Tampa and I was 29. And you would have thought they treated me like I was a top prospect, like how much they were like invested in working with me, like whatever I need, like, and they just approached it.
They see the value in that.
Exactly, because they know, dude, it's a fucking long year.
Yeah,
like you need, like,
and they might need you at some
that's
point.
what I'm saying. Like it's a system that wins games. Like you're gonna have to go through, you know, these times during a year where you're riddled with injuries, where you're gonna need the guy that, you know, he was in minor league camp to start the year. Holy shit, he's just coming onto the scene. But it's like you've also invested time into that guy and got him to a place where he needs to be. So you feel comfortable bringing him up there and thinking that he can help. So I think, like, from an organizational standpoint, every player that enters the building needs to be viewed as somebody that could potentially help a big league ball club.
And that could help as being a piece that gets traded to another team. And that's where I think a lot of people miss it. They're like, oh, Phillies have a good bullpen. This guy is, you know, not going to be a part of it. It's like, well, if someone gets hurt, you might be able to trade him and one other guy for somebody who will be. And that's where, like, I think there's just a lot of those teams miss it, you know.
100%. Like a lot, it's built through the minor leagues, dude. Like, and when you see, like, dude, when I would play the Yankees in Scranton, like, you would show up to a pregame there. It looked as if, like, it looked like an NFL combine.
Yeah. Yep.
Like pregame.
Yeah.
Hated. Like, no one wants to play them.
No.
They steal. They do the vault leads. Like, everybody hits 300. Everyone has double-digit home runs. They're bringing guys off the bench that you're like, who the fuck is this guy? Bringing this guy out of the pen. You're like, yo, that guy's like 5-year service time. It's a 2A right here. He just has nowhere to go.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's crazy, man. It's crazy, but I think that's how, like, if from an organizational standpoint, if you're not viewing it like that, dude, because I look at my time with Kansas City, and there were guys that, like, were legitimately really, really good players that, like, just didn't get an opportunity because they weren't viewed as, you know, somebody that can contribute at the major league level. Like, one of my best friends pitched, I mean, he had a sub, like, 3.5 ERA, like, really in his career, and never got a shot up there. Why? I mean, maybe he didn't throw hard, but he did a lot of good things. He cut outs. Like, there were a lot of things to be desired, but he was just a guy that I don't think they viewed as somebody that can help us. So you don't even give yourself a shot, where, you know, you look at these other teams and it's like, I don't really care where you came from. I don't really care how much money we gave you. If you're better and can help this team win, like, that's what we're doing. Like,
I think that's something pretty cool right now. Like, at least locally for us, like, a lot of Phillies fans, obviously this is Philly country. You're hearing that a lot with the Phillies right now. Like, anytime they call a young guy up, you hear inside the clubhouse, like, the veterans are going over, like, hey, you're here to help us win now. Like, we don't give a shit who you are, how much money you make, where you were drafted. Like, you're up here to help us win.
Mm-hmm.
So you're a part of this now. Let's go. We're happy you're here. Like, you're here to help us win. That's all they want to do now.
That's
and
it.
like you have veteran leadership that can do that and help guys feel comfortable. It's like, all right, yeah, like, let's go. Like,
Well,
I'm a part of
Yeah,
this
didn't
team.
used to be like that.
That's
yeah.
what. But I was gonna say that, like, dude, when you have veteran leadership, that plays a huge role. Also, like, I say all the time, man, like, when I look at like my career specifically, it's like I also felt like I was in an organization at the time where like the major leagues was almost like a development league at a time, just to get prospects up there and like get their feet wet at the major league level. You know what I mean? So it was like there wasn't an urgency to like win because they weren't winning games. So it's like I'm not looking at the guy that's dominating in AAA to come help. It's like, hey, where do I see this team in 3 years? Where do I see this team in 5 years? Like, I want to get those guys opportunities up here to showcase what they could do, and I want them to get used to like everything that comes with playing in the major leagues. You know, everything, like I said, game planning, everything like from the like outside of the ballpark. You know what I mean? Just everything that goes into playing in the major leagues. So, I saw that like. And then I left and I go to the Mets, and they're a team that like they won. That was the year they won 100 and something games. They actually lost the division to Braves when they made that like sick run at the end. But they were calling dudes up left and right that were free agent signings that were like they didn't give a shit.
Nope.
They didn't care. It's like, this guy's dominating in 3A. We need help up here. I don't like all that other stuff does not matter.
Yep.
It doesn't matter. Who can I call up today that is going to help our big league club win a ball game? And that's what it should be about. You know what I mean? Especially at that level. So, and you see it. And I think now they've changed the regime a little bit in Kansas City. So you are seeing that, like they're calling guys up, and you know, it's just guys that are doing it at the AAA level, not really, hey, this is our number 1 or 2 prospect that's, you know, struggling to
Right,
find
they're not
his
just
footing
pushing
at
guys
a
to
level.
push
They're
them
not
anymore
pushing
because they
guys.
got paid a little bit.
Exactly.
Just to cover their ass. Like, hey, this
Exactly.
prospect never made it.
Yeah. Where I always viewed it, dude, like regardless, like you drafted somebody, like, and I get it, but it's like, I gave this guy $1 million, I gave this guy 5,000. It's like, I spent $1 million, 5,000.
Yeah.
Who the hell
Either
cares
way,
wuse up? You know what I mean? It's like, I spent it either way.
Yeah.
It's like,
Job security. That's why.
well, exactly, because
Yeah,
somebody's
cover
got to
your
answer
ass
for
a
that.
little
But
bit.
it's
But
like,
yeah, but I mean, no, that's where the good teams do it though.
but that's what I'm saying. Like the good teams,
No, they don't care.
at least like the perception of it is they don't give a shit. It's like, who's gonna help me win?
Yep.
And it's like, it should be about what's
Because when
going
you
on in
win,
the
no one's
field.
gonna bitch about
Nobody
the first rounder
cares.
who didn't make it. Yep.
Nobody cares.
Yep.
You win, solves everything.
Yeah.
You don't.
Speaking of winning, I just want to throw this out there. We're talking about like the old school and new school sort of things, and thinking about analytics. And I know we implement a lot of the analytical things in here that maybe you guys are talking about, like pitches and things earlier that are more effective than others, and who should throw what and what count. And that's something that we were able to deep dive in a little bit more with our pitchers. Ed and our 2025s just recently had some success working with some of this stuff. If you want to shout themselves out a little bit.
Yeah. You know, we talked about it last
week a little
episode
bit.
about this tournament we were going to actually try to win.
Want it.
The boys want it.
Yep.
So the Oilers are going to Jupiter, which is first time ever for us as to get to go down there at that 18U
Is that a
tournament.
That's you won
the
that
Northeast
to qualify
qualifier in
for
Staten
that?
Island.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's awesome.
we've never won it. We've tried every year. We've come up short every year.
Yeah, it's a big W.
But this year the boys pulled it off. You know, shout out to that whole team, and that's been a really fun group. You know, for us, and
Fun to coach.
fun for me to be around them. I get to coach them right now, and you know, it's been great, and I'm excited to go down to Jupiter with them. But yeah, that was we talk about like how we do this stuff, and like, you know, it's not always about winning. It's about getting guys better and developing them and letting them figure it out. But I did say, you know, we're going to try to win this one.
Yeah.
And you know, the
But
guys,
there-
they played their balls off.
There has to be a and I get it. Like, it depends, I guess, what kind of, like, something like that. Yeah, you want to win because it benefits the program. It benefits the kids. It's like you getting us being exposed, and
yeah, like this one gets them into a huge tournament that gets them exposure.
Give yourself a plane ticket.
So,
You know what I mean? Like,
so you're keeping the main thing, but it's like, yo, you also got to teach these dudes, like, learning how to win, like being a winning ball player.
Yeah,
You know what I
you're
mean?
developing them to win, to perform. That's
Exactly.
like the point. you know?
Exactly. So there is, like, that does mean something. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like, I just think at as far as the youth level goes, I think at times winning does get in the way, but at younger levels,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like when I see that shit at 12 and 13, I'm like,
Just
dude,
crafting the importance.
Well, it's like winning is important, but like at what expense at
yes,
at a certain age? Like,
yes.
are we gonna win a game for a guy not to get a chance to get a hit,
Yeah.
or to take a guy out of a situation on the mound and put somebody else in? Like, how's that kid ever going to learn to work through that situation?
Yeah.
You know, how's he ever going to be on the mound in a big spot and feel confident if you just take him out of it every time? And, you know, a lot of times we let the guys roll and figure it out.
Yeah.
And, you know, like I said, this one was a little different. You know, we still tried. We still tried to let guys do their thing and figure it out.
Yeah.
But, you know, there came to times where it was like, all right, yeah, we gotta get the ball to somebody
gotta
else.
manage.
Yeah.
You gotta manage.
Gotta coach a little bit.
Talking a little bit more about like the analytics, especially with that team, because those are all guys that are getting ready to go to college, and a lot of them big time schools that can afford the more in depth look into the analytics. They're working with you and they're doing all this stuff, and you give them a in depth look. I hear you guys give evals up here, and it's insane. I don't understand a lot of it, and but that's not unusual. Anyway, they're sending them off to these schools, and you're dealing with them and the numbers and things like that. And I'm curious to hear you guys take where it's a lot of them have had proven success clearly, and they get to a school maybe like Alabama per se, who has a really nice insight into everything, and they have numbers and all this different stuff, and there may be like a different take on how they should do different things. How do you think a player combats that and looking at the analytics? Because I know we have guys, some that are dealing with this already, but it sort of seems like this 2025 group is the first group that's going in. Every single player is under this umbrella of analytics and also being a baseball guy, but understanding that analytics are important.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and that's something I want to talk about too, so I'm glad you brought it up. But so it's the same kind of idea, right? Like, as a pitcher, let's go on the pitching side. Like, as a pitcher, you know that when you get to college, like, you can look up the averages, like the fastballs average 91 point something. So it's like we're talking to guys now. We're like, hey, like, you throw 88 to 92. That's sick. You average 91. When you go next year to college, you are now the average velocity, right? So you need to have other things that you can go to. So like a 70 mile an hour slider is not it. Like, we know that that's not going to perform at that level, no matter how well you execute it. Like, so you need to, like, you can take that time once you commit. Like, you can, like, all right, like, I need to build stuff that I think can get guys out at that level, and we take the time to do that. And I think that's like the biggest advantage. Like, we get so many guys that like we have a couple young guys that throw hard, that throw like 62 mile an hour breaking balls, and we're like, yo, that it doesn't matter how, like, it doesn't matter what you do, how sharp it is, spin rate, how much it moves, like, it's too slow. Like, we need to, and we can build stuff that we think will get guys out at that level. And I think that's huge going in as a freshman. Like, obviously the fall is so important. Like, your first impression there is huge. Like, schools aren't signing you to go there to help you get better. They're signing you to come in and help them win, especially at the big, you know, at like a Power 5 level. Like, you're not actually at all levels now, because you can pretty much go anywhere at any time.
Those coaches keep their jobs based on
like
wins.
Their job is to put the players in who help them win.
And that's
it's not to fix your slider. It's not to fix your command. It's not to, you know, work on your mechanics. It's to put you in situations that can help the team win. And if your stuff doesn't like work into the model that it's going to get those guys out, like, you're going to be on the back burner. So it's like taking that time ahead of when you get there. Like, it doesn't matter what breaking ball you throw in high school, it's going to fare pretty well, especially if you throw 90. Like, if you throw 90 over the dish, you could throw the worst breaking ball, the worst high school breaking ball in here, you're going to fare well. So it's like building your stuff to where we know that it can have success at that level. And that's where I feel like a lot of guys struggle when they get to college, is like, yo, like, my breaking ball's getting smoked.
Well,
like,
I think
it's not that good.
I think
like,
it's funny
to fix that.
I've seen it firsthand. That's why I think like the progression in here with the TrackMan and everything, and even with like hit tracks and forming guys swings, where it's like you'll tell a guy, yo, this slider sucks, you need to bang it, like all this stuff, and they're like, nah, I like it, I throw it a lot, I get outs in high school. And then maybe they'll go to a thing like Jupiter or something, you'll be like, yo, how'd the weekend? And be like, my slider got crushed. It's like, we told you that, so let's actually get better.
I think too, another, like, one of the best examples of this was Chase. So you're talking about a guy that throws 101, and every day we're like, dude, your slider's terrible. Like, it doesn't matter how hard you throw, like, we're going to need to fix that slider. So like for probably a calendar year, Like we're trying to work on his slider,
His whole
being able
junior
to
year,
sweep
going
his
into
whole
senior
junior year.
year.
Like the biggest thing we did with him was build the arsenal. Like you're to be a first rounder, you can't just throw one pitch.
Oh, yeah.
Like, and especially his fastball. Like if you watch him pitch now, he does not throw fastball. So like the whole year was pretty much preparing him for everything else that he's about to do when we didn't even realize it at the time.
Especially
but it's
under-
like, yeah, like building the slider is pretty much what made him into a first round pick, because he went out there and when he's throwing 94, 98 or 98 to 100, like he still has a plus pitch that he's going to, that he has in his back pocket that he never had. Like when you go to a PG event, throwing 2 innings, throwing 100, you're not throwing breaking balls.
That
Yeah.
slider probably got him paid.
I was
The slider might have been like, it might have got him paid, and it definitely is like one of the biggest reasons. Same thing with his cutter now, for the success that he's had, is like that was a knock on him. Like, oh, he throws 100, he can't pitch. Like watch him pitch. Like we literally practice that for
he
so
pitch,
long.
man.
Yeah, like that's kind of his thing now. Is
Yeah.
he doesn't throw fastballs. He throws a 92 mile an hour cutter and an 85 mile an hour sweeper that are plus big league pitches. But we can put them like on the TrackMan and say, hey, this is if we put this in the big leagues right now, this is going to do good. So it's like, or the one he had before wasn't good. So like when you get to pro ball, then you have to try to, upgrade your slider like in between starts. Like it's not going to work,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, Nick, I'm curious for you where it's like talking a lot about the pitching side of it, where you need to have a slider to succeed at the next level and keep progressing through. And you were a great college hitter, obviously, and were able to succeed a lot at that level. And then obviously going from the NEC to minor league balls is a big step. And you were able to succeed enough that you made it to the big leagues. And there's a certain aspect of, I was good before, it's what got me here, let's stick to that plan. But also I'm curious to hear, like, what are some of the monumental differences where you're like, okay, I was able to have success in college, but this is what needs to happen for me to keep progressing and go up to the show.
So, good question. I think at the time I was drafted, there wasn't the information that there is today. So it was a lot more just like optic and feel. You know what I mean? So it's like I have a really good senior year. I go into rookie ball and
392, 7 home runs.
Yeah, that was pretty good. But what I noticed when I got to rookie ball was like I was handling the fastball. Like I was taking care of what needed to be taken care of. If you can handle the fastball as a hitter, you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
So as I start going, like I always, when I came out of the draft, I was always good bat to ball, that kind of like the hit tool that you talked about. Like I really had no idea.
Definitely had the hit tool.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
but I
I
really,
mean, 392 in college is no joke.
As
Like,
a catcher.
you're-
but I had
you're
no
a hitter.
idea how I was doing it. Like,
Right,
I don't
yeah.
know if you remember, dude. Like, do you remember like?
I remember the
senior-
4 for 4 to get you to
Yes,
400. Yeah,
dude.
I remember that.
Well, no, I'm talking about the 4 for 4, like in the like at the beginning of March when
Oh,
we're
so
in Philly and
Yeah,
me
happened
and you were
multiple
rooming
times.
in college,
Mhm.
and well, dude, this tear I went on was fucking
Unbelievable.
insane. It was
Yeah.
insane.
Trying to remember
But
which
dude,
time you went
I
4
was
for 4.
hitting 200 after hitting 250 my junior year, and we were just sitting there bullshit. I'm like, dude, I don't fucking know what I'm doing. Like, I can't figure it out. And I remember just getting up to the plate, and I'm like, dude, I'm just gonna try to have like swag at the plate. And I was like, Jose Batista was a dude at the time, so like I got in the box and I just started to like
Swag
loosen
it
up
out.
a little bit. And I legitimately went, I was 4 for 4, 3 for 3, 4 for 5 the next 3 games. That I was hitting 200. Next thing I look up, I'm hitting 450, and it was just takeoff.
This is
Yeah.
hilarious because I didn't know that happened for you. My senior year was the same exact thing. Like I went into my senior year, I'm like, all right, yeah, like I'm supposed to, like my goal is to be a draft pick.
Yeah.
It's like I'm supposed to be the guy. We're a third of the season in. I'm hitting $130, and I'm like, what the hell am I doing? Like I don't know what to do. I'm supposed to be good. Like nothing's gonna happen for me. All this shit. We're playing LIU Brooklyn.
Good place to hit.
Very
It
good.
was at home. It was at our spot.
Oh.
Right. And I was at the time getting my shit packed by everybody. We're Friday night game. Dude on the mound's like, 90, 92. Just throwing fastballs though. Blew my doors off first at bat, 3 pitches. Good morning, good afternoon, good night. I'm like, what the fuck? And like literally the next at bat, I remember coming up like first pitch heater, blew it by me again. I'm like, dude, time. Stepped out, literally changed everything about it. My entire setup, everything.
Same.
I had like a pro hitter on, which I never wore. I was like, this looks cool. I should wear this. Took that off, put it in my pocket. Like, changed my whole stance. like choked up on the bat like an inch, maybe an inch and a half. I was swinging a 33 and still choked, and like just changed everything about how I was moving. Like it was like, I'm just gonna feel comfortable. Screw it, because nothing I'm doing is working.
Yep.
And next pitch, double down the right field line. Next at bat, double down the left field line. Triple right centers. Like then every weekend after that was insane.
Yeah.
But like literally went from hitting 130 to ending up, accomplishing the goal to be a draft pick. But like, it's crazy how that shit can happen. And I didn't know that the same thing happened with you.
I remember when you were a junior, dude. That was one of the first times I've ever seen like the whole process over the results thing. Like, I mean, when you were a junior, you were probably like top prospect in the league at one point, right?
Well, yeah, and that was what was sickening.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I remember that year, and it's like, dude, like just the next year when you came back, it was like just to focus on, like, let's just hit the ball hard. Like, what do I got to lose? And all of a sudden, like, nothing else changed other than just like that and the idea. I remember the whole like obviously you changed a hitting coach, but there was a little bit of an approach of like, hey, like, let's have loose free swings, like let's drive balls in the gap. And like for you, it was like that was the first time I've ever seen like the change of when you have like simple ideas in your head, like how much it can affect, like your years were, what was it, like 250 to 400,
250
and we're like, dude, this guy did nothing else other than one, like change of approach, two, like basically a free mind, and three, like didn't worry about the result. Was like, hey, I'm just gonna try and hit the ball hard, and if I do that, it's a positive,
100%, dude. That's exactly what it was. Like, I had a really good sophomore year, so I go into my junior year, and I'm like,
freshman year, we're like, this guy's fucking
freshman, sophomore year, really good. Junior year, I'm like, hey, this is the opportunity. Like, want to get drafted. We just saw one of our guys, Ian Miller, the year before get drafted. So I'm like, all right, that's something that's in the cards. And I just, like you said, and one of the things that cannot be glossed over is free mind.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I
got something for this when you're done.
You know what I mean? Like, I felt like I had to do something my junior year, and then when it didn't happen, I'm like, I kind of turned the page on it, and it's like, all right, I got another shot at this. And then the year gets off to the way it does, and I'm like, dude, what the fuck am I stressing about? Like, I'm worried about what the next 5-10 years of my life looks like, as opposed to like what I'm doing now. Like, you're playing competitive baseball. Like, go compete. Like, go be a guy. You know what I mean? Stop being a bitch. Like, stop feeling sorry for yourself and just go play.
Well, not only that, and Ed, I'm sorry, but just like something to add to that, where it's like you worry about the next 4 or 5 years down the line, because I was the biggest freaking warrior you ever met in your life. And it kind of until I got to the last 2 years of school, where I was like, okay, I'd have nothing to worry about for the next 4 or 5 years because I ain't going anywhere. But I was like, that's what it took for me to be like, worrying about that stuff takes away all of the fun and potential opportunity while you're playing a game to really like enjoy where you're at and find success in, like I found so much success in my defense and running the bases, and was really able to like enjoy that part of the game, where it was like, all right, I went 0 for 5.
It didn't matter if you got out.
Yeah, exactly. I made it so much better experience. It made me way more well-rounded of a player. I didn't mean to cut you off. I just wanted to throw that in there.
No, like I have another story kind of based on that. Twice it happened to me in college, right? I touched on my senior year, but my sophomore year in college summer ball, I'm up in Amsterdam again, and I was there my freshman year. I lit it up my freshman year there, 360 with 9 pumps. They came out with the top prospect list at the end. I was a freshman in the league. They listed me at 30th in the top 30. And my goal for the next year, if I came back, was I want to be number 1, or at least number 1 position player. Right? So that was my goal. Selfish goal, right? But like an individual goal. I'm doing the same thing. We're got about a third of the season left now, and our team is loaded. Right? After we got done, we won it all. It came out, we got ranked number 1 summer ball team in the country over the teams in the Cape. Every kid on the team was a draft pick. Really fun team, a lot of good times there. But I'm hitting like a $130 with like a third of the season left. Dude, I called my dad. I'll never forget. I'm in upstate New York. I'm driving. I call my dad crying. And I'm just like, dude, all these goals I had, I'm not going to, achieve them. I wanted to be a top prospect. I want to, set myself up to be a draft pick and all this stuff. And like, I'm blowing it. And he's just like, you know what? You're right. Like, you're not, and none of that stuff is going to happen now. So fuck it. He was just like, you're on a really good team. He's like, you're on a, like, cause we were at mid-major schools, right? Like I went to NJIT, You know, we were 500 every year. Which was fine. Like, we were at a great time. You know, obviously you want to be better, but that's what it was. But I go to Amsterdam and like the team, we're winning like 45, 50 games, and like everybody's good, every ACC, SEC guys everywhere. And instead of like enjoying that, I was so worried about my personal stats. So my dad's like, you know, fuck it. It's not going to happen for you now anyway. None of that shit's going to happen. So like, you may as well just go out and try to help the team win any way you can and try to have some fun. And I was like, you know what? You're right. You know, so next game I go out. I think the first like good thing I did to start building momentum was like I moved a runner. I just moved a runner. Ground ball to second base, got a guy to third. We scored a run.
Sometimes you just need those high fives in the W.
Yeah.
Oh, I was just about to say.
At bat,
Got to see the ball through the hoop.
Yep.
Yeah,
Next
literally.
at bat, sack fly, run, scores. Right. Like now it's just like
You love a sack fly.
You're starting to build momentum, and like you shift the focus from yourself and you put it to winning. And like when you're focused on winning, a lot of the personal stuff happens. And for me, it did. Like once I just started focusing on winning, now like after that, I went on an absolute tear. I was hitting 130, finished up 300 on the nose. Ooh. And like then I got ranked, like the prospect rankings came out and I was the #1 position player. But like I went on a ridiculous tear.
Yeah.
Nuts. Got to stop that word. Went on a nutty tear. But like all I had to focus on was winning and trying to help the team win. And I think like with baseball, that's so important because it is such a mental game and you put so much stress on yourself as an individual because it's an individual sport played with a team.
Yeah.
Right. Like you got to handle your own business. And I think like a lot of times in sports, like I think that's why like in life in general, like religion is such a big thing, whether you believe in it or not. Like you take the pressure off of yourself, like religion wise, like you take the pressure off of yourself sometimes and you're like, I'm putting it in God's hands, and you know, you're going to let it play out and you're just trusting that there's something higher at stake here. Right. So, and I think it's the same thing. You can do kind of the same thing with just focusing on winning and helping the team win. You know, if you're focused on winning, you're taking a lot of the pressure off of yourself as an individual, because now you don't have to go 3 for 4 to help the team win.
Yeah.
You can do other things in the game to help a team win. Maybe it's even just throwing a guy out.
Yeah.
Maybe it's making a nice play in the field.
Yep. Yeah.
You know, stealing a bag, moving a runner. All those things build momentum. And I think when you can do that, you take so much pressure off of yourself as the individual, and then you can just play free. Because like, all right, yeah, at the end of the day, if you say you go over but the team won, it's like, all right, you can just be happy.
Yeah,
Exactly.
You can be happy with that. And then the next game, you go 2 for 4 with a pump and you win. It's like, all right, that was sick.
Yeah.
You know, and then you just start to build positive momentum and it just rolls.
That's it.
And go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I like just kind of to the counterpoint of that. What makes it tough is that the minor leagues don't care about winning.
Oh, no doubt.
So
So it's a different
like,
game
you
there.
know what I mean? Like
yeah, like
that's
what I'm saying. Like, that was college.
Yeah, like,
It
and
is
dude,
way
and
different
that
here.
was the like, and that's you just said it right, because I go from college and my senior year, that was the year we were really, really good.
Yep.
You know, made a run. We ended up losing. We shit the bed, but like it was the most productive year that we had like as a program in my 4 years there. So it was like enjoying that process, enjoying it with, you know, I came in with 19 freshmen at the time. We graduated 14 or 15. But like enjoying like those moments with those people that you went through the ringer with for the last 4 years, that was very rewarding. And then you go to professional baseball and it's like, dude, I get off to I started my career on like an 11-game hitting streak. That 11 games spanned over a month. Yep. And I'm like sitting there, I'm like, yo, what the hell is going on? Like I was under the idea, I went into pro ball so naive about how anything worked.
Too,
you know what I mean? Like, but there wasn't the information back then that there is now.
Yeah.
So it's like you go into it. There wasn't people telling me like, hey, dude, you're a senior sign. Like the odds are stacked up against you. Like chances are you're not going to make it. There's a good chance you don't make it out of rookie ball with where you're drafted.
Yep.
That's
that
just
the same thing.
That's
right?
the reality of it.
We don't even plan for you to make it, actually.
No, seriously.
We plan for you to play so everyone else can make it.
Yeah, dude.
Like I was $1,000 in a plane ticket sign.
Same.
As a senior in college, you know, like, and I remember I did the same thing. I show up, I went on a tear to start because came off a hot season, went on a tear, and it's like, then, you know, you get to the All-Star break and like, I think I could be an All-Star.
Yeah.
And then like there's 3 other guys on the team that are doing worse that get the All-Star.
Yeah.
And you're like, wait.
Hey, why am I not even playing today?
How is this? Why is this working this way?
No,
Stuff starts making sense.
It's stuff starts to make sense, right?
Yeah.
So it's like and that's why I look at like the early portion of my career, and I'm like, dude, I had a shit ton of success because I wasn't worried about, hey, what does the front office think, or like where am I gonna be? It was just like, yo, go out there and play and like prove yourself. You know what I mean? And then, like, as I started to go and have some success, I caught a break in my career, but it's once I started to understand how the business side of this thing went, I started thinking about so much more other shit that was so like counterintuitive to me, like producing at the level I knew I was capable of, because
Once you start playing GM.
That's it, dude. That's what I would do. Like me and my buddies would literally go back to the apartment after the
AAA
game.
is like literally 30 GMs on the team.
That's
it's unbelievable.
That's all it is, bro. So it's like you're trying to perform while also thinking like, dude, I found that myself at times in my career like checking what the guy in front of me is doing, checking what the guy behind me is doing.
It's cancerous
too.
It
is.
Dude, the year I got released, it was the same thing. I roll into spring training, had a good year in rookie ball the year before, led team in doubles and OPS. I'm like, all right, yeah, I established myself. So everybody here knows I'm a professional hitter, right? Thinking that I had made it a little bit, made a mark. And I show up to spring training, had a good spring training, and then get left in extended. And with all the guys that I played with the year before, breaking camp, and I'm like, man, what the fuck is going on here? And I was mad as hell, and I was there, for probably 2-3 weeks, but like, I was miserable. I've never been more miserable in my life.
Oh, it's perfect.
And the whole time I'm just like, why the hell am I here? I'm 23, 24 years old at the time. Like, I was older, and I'm back in extended with a bunch of 16-year-old Dominicans running around, like. And I'm just like, dude, this is miserable. Like, this is not what it's supposed to be. Yeah. Like in your whole life, it's like perform, move, move, and then you perform, and you almost go backwards, and it's like, well, now you start to understand it. It almost doesn't matter how good I do, right? And it does, but like that's how you start to think.
But that thought that's a real thought.
Yeah,
like that's a real thought.
I remember being there in that dark place, and I remember looking at the low A roster in Dayton, all the guys I played with, like almost hoping guys like that were my friends were gonna fail, so I would go. Yeah. And like it was just miserable. And
I feel like at Wagner, that was one thing that we definitely were like, everyone wanted to play because somebody else sucked in front of them. It was never like, yo, I want to be good. I want him to be good when I want to be better than him and him be good. You know? And that's why I felt like, dude, we had so much talent. But like we weren't really like, we never really rooted for each other. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like we didn't even really view how it was. Like, but we were also like, I don't know, we didn't really understand it. Like it was like, yo,
we didn't understand it.
Yeah, and
especially I remember having that same thought. I literally remember a specific instance. We were at the University of Richmond, and the kid who was playing in front of me, who I actually liked as a dude, like would hang out with on the weekends, and he freaking hits a big fly home run first inning, and I was literally in the dugout like, this
I'm never gonna play again.
Yeah,
no, 100%.
This guy.
Dude,
like,
and I remember like getting released and getting called into the office, and like I was really, really okay with it. Yeah. And I remember going into the the parking lot, waiting for my ride to the hotel to grab my stuff, and our mental skills coach at the time comes out, Frank Pfister, great dude. I think he's still with Cincinnati, but he comes out talking to me and asking if I'm okay. I'm like, Frank, like, you don't get it. This is the first time in my life in a long time where I feel like I actually have control over what's going to happen next. Yeah. And it's also not the end of the world. I'm going home. I live by the beach. I haven't been home in the summer in years. Okay, like we live by Atlantic City, the beach. Like it's great time here. I'm going home to my family. Like I'm gonna be fine, and I'll figure it out. But like when I call my parents, my mom's crying. My dad's asking me if I'm okay. I'm like, guys, you don't get it. Like I've actually felt relieved getting released.
A lot of people feel that way, which is crazy.
It was wild
because the outside people, man, they don't
get it.
They don't get it. They can't possibly get it, and they don't see it, right? Like they turn on MLB TV and watch you play at 7:00, and they enjoy that, but they don't see like everything that goes into it. They don't understand the mental grind, dude. Like I've had nights where like you don't sleep. Like I wake up in the morning like, man, I can't eat. Like I'm like, dude, you know what I mean? Like tough. Anxiety, like. I recall times like that, and that's when I knew it was it for me too, man, because like my last year playing, it was just, there was so much just shit, like at home, playing, and it was just like, man, I can't do it. No, I'm done with it, and rightfully so, but like had a tough year. And I'm just like, dude, mentally I was out of it. I'm like, you know what? I look back and it's like, man, I enjoyed my time. I wouldn't change how anything went. I mean, obviously I would like to have a little more time, but
I think
it was a
all of
freeing
us would
feeling.
probably, if we could, take the stuff we know now and like the experiences and go back and do it again. I think we'd all probably attack it a little bit differently.
For sure.
Like I think about that, and like people ask me like, do you wish you knew what you know about like hitting and like the swing now when you were playing? Like, yeah, absolutely. I wish I knew. Like I would have, because I tried some things. Like I was, I knew where I was I knew where I stood on the pecking order, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, I had the good first year. I go the whole off season. My goal is like I got to hit more pumps. Like if I want to go, I got to drive the ball. Like I'm older. There's no money next to my name. If I'm gonna move, I got to really, really produce and drive the ball. So I tried making a swing adjustment, a big one, but you learn, right?
That's it.
You learn, and like I don't regret doing that because it set me like on the path to like want to know more and like
And what you're doing now.
and doing this and like helping other people. And it's like you just learn to actually just sift through the bullshit of what's real and what's not, because there's a ton of shit on the internet now where everybody's trying different gimmicks and stuff, but like you try to just figure out what's real and what's not, and how can you help guys apply it and not waste time.
That's how I feel, man, and that's what I find a lot of like grace in helping other people and like
No doubt.
using my experiences to.
It's almost better. It's
It
way better.
is.
It's way
It's
better.
what's a
Playing
very
as one
rewarding
or
feeling.
like spreading it to 300, it's
Because
a lot better.
there was times in my career, dude, where I felt like if I did good or bad, I was the same. Like, it was almost like
No matter
the good games I had. There was a point where it was just like, all right, don't enjoy it too much. Like you got to get up and play the next
Yeah,
day.
and it's
Where
also like I'm
Yeah.
supposed to do that.
exactly where
Yeah.
it's like, all right, just go do it again. You know what I mean? It's tough, and it's a grind, man. It's a mental grind.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you see these guys that just do it year in and year out, man, and produce. Like those dudes are
They're different. They're
man.
different,
Like,
bro.
It's different.
They don't get enough credit. I always talk about
Yeah.
guys that are like, you reach 10 years of service and like people are like
my
chirping you
goodness.
for, striking out. Like, what are you talking about?
I hear
Like,
people
What are you
like,
talking
dude, it drives me insane when I
Yeah.
hear people like
I know.
talk like shit.
Dude, people, I think
Yeah,
too,
the
people
game
don't
gets way
even
easier when you stop playing.
exactly.
people don't even understand like how it works. They don't understand the DFA. They don't understand the 40-man roster.
Mhm.
Like calling guys up now for guys that are gonna get DFA'd in another week. Like all that stuff that goes into it that people are just absolutely clueless
Yeah.
about. Like that like when they make decisions like you're talking about bringing people up to win a game. Like some teams are not doing that.
No.
Like not doing that at all. They're like,
No.
yo, if we bring this guy up and put him on the 40, then if we want to claim somebody else, we have to DFA him, somebody else can take him. All those decisions that people don't even really realize. You're like, dude, call this guy up. It's like, what are you talking? He's in fucking high A.
Yeah.
You're not calling him up.
Well, dude, that's where I found like I said, I'm not trying to badmouth anybody, but that's where the Royals fumbled, in my opinion, was because they were putting guys that were in high A on 40-man rosters that, like, dude, nobody was taking them.
No.
Like, nobody was taking them, where they just
And if
felt
they
the
did,
need. They'd be right back. They'd be right back. They could, because another thing people don't understand, you get claimed off the 40-man roster, you need to make the big league club, and not only make the big league club, you need to be on the big league roster for the entire season. The moment you can't get optioned.
No.
You have to be you're returned if you're optioned. You need to be on the roster. So they like littered their roster with young kids that were not major league ready, and now they pigeonhole themselves because they're not going to like DFA them, because now
They're
you
just
allow
sitting there.
now if they get DFA'd, a team can claim them, and they don't have to put them on the big league roster. They can hide them and use their option years in the
And
minor
now you're
leagues.
DFAing somebody who's pitching for you in the bigs.
Exactly.
Instead of the high A second baseman.
Exactly. So there's so much that goes into it, but like, dude, it was, and like trying to play that game, it was tough. It's hard. It's hard. It's mentally exhausting. But you learn, and you just like, you try to take, like we talked about, man, you try to take your experiences and what you went through in the game and just try to help the next person in line. But it's also due to, and I'd love to hear your guys' take on this, but like the way that everything works now, it's so damn hard to like get buy-in from an individual on a team level, because like guys just have the ability now. Oh, it's not working out here. See ya. Like I'll just go somewhere where my like the path is a little more.
Oh, they didn't call me
up.
up. Like I can be a free agent at the end of July.
That's
like,
it.
I'll just go somewhere
Even
else.
at like a collegiate level, right?
Yep.
Like
Yeah.
hey, like
Well, the free transfer rule
That's
changed
it.
everything.
Yeah.
everything. Where it's like, dude, there was a time when if you didn't play, you had to figure it out and like actually like go get better. And
people
not
would say
find
like,
the way
I'm
out.
gonna go somewhere where I'm gonna try and start by the time I'm a junior. Like that was like the thing.
Yeah,
Now
it's like if I'm not playing my freshman year, regardless of where I am, I'm out. I'll
Yep.
see it. Somebody will take me, and it's like so. It has become so much about the individual, and then like you take that mindset at a collegiate level and you apply that into the minor league level, and now it's like, holy shit, you have that kid who is thinking that type of way. Plus, you have an organization, and that's I'm not pinpointing any organization. I would say most organizations are the same in the sense that it's all about development. Like wins, like if you can learn to win, that's great. But like we care about making sure that these guys are ready to win at a major league level. We don't really care.
I thought about this the other day. The team that I coached, that 25 team, we had a tournament this weekend, and like this tournament we're not playing for anything. There's no playoffs. It's actually kind of dumb, and our team is really good and they're really competitive and they want to go try to get after teams. And like we didn't play anybody good, and it's like it's even tough. It was tough for me, and I'm usually the one like, yo, let's go, guys.
Yeah,
like, Let's do this shit. And it was tough for me to be like, all right, yeah, let's get up, because like we're not playing for anything. And like I started thinking about it, because how can I let these guys know like, hey, like just because it doesn't necessarily matter, you still have to try to play and play hard and do it the right way, because some of those guys could end up being draft picks, and like, yeah, you think that because you're a draft pick now, like, or say you get drafted, it's like, yeah, now I'm in pro ball, I'm going to turn it on. It's like, no, you're back in a situation where like a lot of the games don't matter. Like, so what are you just going to like, okay, can you take me out? Like,
away.
I don't want to play center field this inning, like, or I'm not going to show up tomorrow. Like, no, you still got to strap it up and show the fuck up.
Yeah. Dude, if you're a guy, which your team is littered with guys who like have aspirations to, be big draft picks, big leaguers, whatever it may be. Like I had this conversation with a 15-year-old kid the other day, and this kid has, I think, a bright future in the game, really good player. And I see him in the cage, like I wasn't working with him directly, but I look at him and I'm watching him in the cage and he's just like fucking around. So I pull him off and I'm like, dude, what the fuck are we doing?
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, you're in the middle of a practice with a team, but like you're wasting opportunities to get better. Like, like you need to look at this, like from a perspective of like you don't have as many opportunities as you think,
especially now.
Yes, to get better, and you're just pissing away an opportunity to get like quality work done because you want to fuck around and impress your friends and be the cool guy. Which I'm like, dude, I get it. Like I was that guy at a certain time, but it was like when it was nut crunching time, it's like, dude, I'm getting the work in.
And I think that's where like as young players, as high school kids, like the good ones can flip that switch, right? Like you can. I was the same way, man. Like I used to be in the outfield in no man's land, be singing to myself, fucking around, making fun of guys. But like pitches come, it's like, all right, here we go. Like you have to be able to lock it in when you need to. Like it's a slow paced game, right? There's a lot of downtime.
Yep.
A lot of time to your own thoughts, and you can bullshit. You can bullshit in between pitches, but like when it's time to go, it's time to go. And the guys that can't flip that switch, it's so noticeable on the field in the games.
And there are plenty of guys that can't. There's probably more guys that can't flip the switch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it does take something to be able to be like, all right, time to lock it in. So
yeah, like with the practice too, like you were saying, like we practice on the field, and like if we're doing BP, and then you got, it happens at every high school practice. You see there's 7 guys standing in center field bullshitting.
Yep.
And it's like, as an outfielder, batting practice is the best thing for you to get real reps. It's the only time you can get real reads off the bat. And now, like, you don't have to go gung-ho, killing yourself, going
diving
after
in the gap
every ball, but like you can do a first hard couple steps and get a good angle and bust it down and, you know, let the pitcher hanging out the track catch it.
Yeah, and that's the thing, like, dude, like, I'm not sitting here saying I've never done that and like fucked around.
We've all done it.
Yeah, but it's
learn.
like exactly. It's like just taking that information and being like, dude, because I legitimately don't think about the good times that I had playing the game. It was almost like, dude, that's what I worked for. I worked to be able to do that. I think about the opportunities that I wasted.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, I could give a shit less about the good stuff that I did. Like, yeah, it's cool to look back on and stuff, but like, I look at opportunities that I look and think, and I'm like, dude, did you really empty the tank there?
Mm-hmm.
I think too. I think the most eye-opening thing is, like, I mean, for us, we're like your standard, you know, size genetic player. Like, when you get somewhere and like there's guys that don't work hard that fuck off all day and they show up and they're way better than you and you're like, holy shit. That guy does nothing and he's way like that's kind of where I think I built this whole like idea, like, hey, we need to develop skills. Like, your strength, not a skill, or all right, sorry, a skill, like, but like how you throw, your swing, like using analytics to your advantage, those are skills that you can develop to make not just you better athletically, but like to give you an advantage. And that's where I think so many, like, you talk about the guys that have like 10-year of service, is like those guys are constantly changing things. They're skilled at the right things. And it's not like, yo, I'm big and strong and fast. Like, everyone's big and strong, fast, throws hard, you know? But it's like those skills that you can refine that don't get worked on a ton, I think is where, like, you know, the money's made, like kind of what we're talking about. Like think, like, you see catchers that are just so good at catching that they stick in the big leagues, you know, or somebody that's so good at defense, or like Jesse Chavez. Like,
How about that?
he would be less talented than some juniors in high school that we have. He has like 15 years in the show.
Oh yeah.
Like, the skill of having two good pitches and throwing them where you want and reading hitters. Like, that's things that you can get better at, that like everyone's in here just like, oh, you know, I'm max effing in a 90, like, or I'm just hacking on the machine. Like, there's so many other things you can do besides that.
So many.
And until they go to college, you're like, yo, that guy does nothing. He throws like 98 with a good slider. It's like, all right, cool. He does nothing, and you're way behind him.
Yeah.
Imagine if he did something, one.
Yeah.
And two.
You can't ever ever play the like, what's he doing? What do I like? You have, and that's what you were talking about, is like finding like what works. You know what I mean? So like, you messed around with swing changes. I came to you guys for a swing change. Like, I had to change something, and that's what you do. Like, you explore. Like, there comes a point where what you're doing, you reach a ceiling. Like,
you're like, all right, this ain't
this is what I'm doing now.
Josh Donaldson, he reached a ceiling in the bigs. Like, he was
Yeah,
bad,
dude.
and he had to do a swing change in the show. Like, that's somebody who, like, you say, oh, they're big leaguers, they're the elitists. Like, no, they're not. Like, maybe some, but like, is Max Scherzer an elitist? Is he even a good athlete? Like that's a guy, for example, like that guy. I mean, but like,
you're saying he's skill based as opposed to. Like,
I'm saying, like, he's not a freak athlete.
Yeah,
he's a freak thrower, and he is so good at commanding the ball, like, mechanically, and always very consistent. But as far as like a freak athlete, we wouldn't put him on like the Proteus and be like, yo, that guy's a specimen. Chapman, yes.
But that's what you're saying.
But Scherzer, like Verlander,
yeah.
like,
But that's what you're saying
those
about
guys
skill.
are insanely skilled. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're freak with skills, but I don't know if they've always been like that.
No,
like, Scherzer came up initially and wasn't that good. He didn't throw like Paul Skeens did, you know. But like, he's insanely skilled at things that matter.
Well,
so much more on the field than just like being a good athlete.
well, fucking I don't know why I just ripped the F that hard right there, but Alejandro Kirk, bro. Like, he is.
dude's built like a bag of milk.
Oh my god!
Like,
Goes out there and does it every day.
Skilled baseball
Every day.
player.
Yeah.
Good hitter.
Yeah.
Professional hitter.
Like, he looks
Hitter,
ridiculous.
catches,
For being-
does everything.
Like, doesn't pass the eye test at
No.
all. You're like,
At
yo,
all.
But
No.
like, yo, really good swing.
Well, dude,
Like,
think
really
about
good
it.
eye,
How
you know?
many guys would you say are like legitimately freak athletes? Like, that's a very small
That's exactly my
percentage.
point. That's kind of
It's
what
a
I'm
very
getting at,
small
is like,
percentage. You look around Major League Baseball, dude. There's not a ton of
no.
athletes.
No.
Like, when I hear somebody say, "All right, yeah, that dude's athletic as shit," I look at like Bobby Witt Jr. He's the fastest guy in the ballpark. He'll jump through the ceiling. Like, he'll do all those things that like athleticism require. Like, that you would
Like, you could
define
toss
as
that guy on the
athleticism.
basketball court or football
Yes.
field,
Yeah.
and like,
Yes.
he'll be okay.
That's what I'm saying. Like, that guy, also high level swing, works his ass off, does all those things. Like when you get that kind of pairing where it's like you get the freak athlete who does the work, puts in the work, it matches, and you get skill and acquire skill. That's what you get. Yeah. Where there's not guys like that running around all over the place. Like most of I would say for 90% of the major leagues, they're not freak athletes.
No, that's
they're skill based. They acquire skill, and that's what you guys do an outstanding job at. That's what people that are in positions that you guys are in, where you're trying to like nurture the next wave of players. It's like, dude, this is the stuff that matters. Like, we need to develop your skill.
Yeah, it's not just exit velocity. It's not just velocity. It's not just strength. It's not just athleticism. No. It's like having those will help you, but like, can you hit a slider? Can you throw 60% strikes with 4 pitches?
You see a dude who hit 220 in high school, and then all he's doing in the offseason is working on speed work.
Yeah, like, what are you talking about?
What are we doing?
Yeah, cool. You can't steal first. That's like the point.
Yeah, dude, and that's why I say all that. Like, I talk to a lot of catchers. Like, I work a lot with catchers. When I talk to these catchers, I'm like, yo, dude, I don't think you realize, like, how many guys would you say legitimately hit their way to the big leagues and stay in the big leagues because they hit, or do they do other things that like pair that with what they do offensively, and now you have a serviceable big league?
I mean, that's like
a real player.
That's like Lope initially. Like,
like
his defense was awesome. Like, obviously he's been hitting solid the whole time, but like he was so good in the field. It's like, yo, this guy's great. And it's like, if he doesn't have that, you're probably not like, yo, this guy's playing electric right now.
Well, that's what I'm saying is like, you take a guy like Lope, dude, where you watch him and it's like, fucking kid swings the shit out of it. Ton of success through the minor leagues. Passes every eye test that you can see, and it's like, oh, but he also like goes and gets it in the outfield. He could also play 3 spots in the outfield. Like, there are like the value in defense and what people do outside of just hitting, because there's not many guys that their bat gets them there and their bat keeps them there for that
Schwarber.
10 years.
Yeah.
One of the only ones.
There you go. How many guys hit 40 homers in the big leagues? How many guys are on base at a 40% clip?
Walk 100 times.
That's what I'm saying. Like
Rojas plays center field because Schwarber and Castellanos play the other corners. Yep. Like, without them, he's not in there.
No.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If you have 2 elite like defenders in the corners, he's not. He doesn't play center field on every team in the big leagues.
No.
Right?
I don't think any others.
But that's what I mean. Is like, so I tell catchers specifically, I'm like, dude, you don't realize. Like, yes. Do you have to hit? You have to hit. Yep. You have to, like, if you want to be taken seriously, like, to go and play at the next level and keep progressing through the ranks of this game, you're going to have to hit a little bit.
Dude, we were signing catchers based off of how metrically they were in certain areas of the zone and stealing strikes. Like, do you remember Max McDowell?
Yeah.
Max McDowell was like
with the Yankees.
Yep. We signed him from AAA and put him in AA because he was analytically one of the best receivers. Yeah. He was the backup for them in AAA in Scranton, and we signed him, put him in AA because analytically he was one of the best receivers in the minor leagues.
He couldn't hit.
Couldn't hit. He hit a home run off me too.
And that's what he couldn't
hit. But he sat there in AA all year, started every game, and because we had a bunch of prospects and he was there, and we're like, yo, take care of these guys. And that's his role. Like, dude, he got signed, got paid a good amount of money every month to do that. If he hit 0, they didn't give a shit.
And that's what I tell these catchers, man, is like, if you like an understanding where the game is at this current time, and it's tough to manage, because it's like when you're playing like at the high school level and below, you can only really quantify a catcher's like how well they're doing. All right, are they blocking the ball? Or are they throwing runners out? You can't really quantify.
Are they stealing?
Are they stealing strikes and swinging counts and like doing those things that like don't really show up? Where like as soon as you get into probably even college, I'm sure they have Hawkeye and stuff.
A lot of teams have TrackMan now.
TrackMan, at all these big time programs, so they can somewhat quantify what that value they bring, like with the glove. Yep. You get to professional baseball, dude. That's all it is. That's it. So I'm like, dude, you have as a 13-year-old kid, a 14-year-old kid, the opportunity to really just master something that is super, super obtainable. Yeah. Like if you have good hands, like
just work.
That's it. you can have good hands, and that's one thing, but like learning technique and acquiring the skill to receive, learning nuance, ideas, and how to position yourself and where to set up, and you know, where to put my glove in certain pitch types.
You were the best catcher I saw in college that I played against.
And I was dog shit.
Then I found out that you stunk in pro
I
ball
was
as a catcher.
dog
I'm like, what
shit.
the hell is going on?
Dog shit, dude. Because I came up with the idea, right?
Block and chuck.
Block and throw.
Yep.
Hit.
Now, if you watched me in college, dude, I blocked the piss out of it and I threw the shit out of it. But if you threw something at the bottom of the zone, high percentage, I was dragging that shit to the bottom, like to the plate. Like you weren't getting strikes at the bottom of the zone because I wasn't ready for it. I wasn't introduced to it.
We didn't even know it was valuable.
We didn't even know it was valuable, right?
It's crazy. The catching position specifically, like dealing with high school kids, like getting recruited. Like we've got a couple good catchers, good young catchers, and like they can throw guys out and they can block. But if they don't pass the eye test behind the dish of like the setup, the receiving, they get overlooked.
Yeah.
Because that's what the colleges are looking for. They're like, like the way he sets up, the way he catches it, it's like it doesn't look right. But it's like, all right, he blocks and throws, everybody out has a chooch and he can swing it. But they almost don't give a shit unless it looks what it needs to look like.
Well, and that's like and that's just all technique and how you approach it, dude. I watch like Rutschman, like analytically terrible receiving. I watch him and I'm like, dude, I could fix this guy in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Like his setup, he's super tall and his posture.
It is weird. We were watching the other day. It was weird.
Never gets down. I'm like, dude, you're never gonna receive the ball at the bottom. Never. Like you need to change how you approach what you're doing. Like, and I tell kids all the time, I'm like, listen. Anytime somebody comes and watches you, right, you want to put all this attention into your throw and to the blocking because you find it's valuable right now, and it is valuable, like skill at that age. It's a valuable skill everywhere.
Yeah.
But every time somebody comes and watch you, they get 150 opportunities to see how you catch the ball.
Yeah.
And,
it's a ton.
and people that know what they're looking for or know what a good catcher looks like, they'll be able to pick that out in 2 pitches.
Yep.
2 pitches, they'll be able to know.
You set up glove side, they throw an arm side in the zone, and you hit it or you get it or miss it. That's all we're worried about. Yeah.
No, but you'll watch that and know within I could watch somebody not even catch the ball and just set up, and I'd be like, he'll be good here, he won't be good there.
Yeah.
And like just based off of how they're approaching it.
Dude, you hit me with an interesting stat. I think it was either this past winter or maybe even last year. We brought up Real Muto, regarded as best catcher in baseball by a lot of guys. And, we were talking about blocking at the time, and you were like, if you actually look up Real Muto's, like, blocking numbers, he actually doesn't block a ton. He picks
He doesn't
everything.
even block.
He doesn't.
He's like, you're just like, he just picks everything. And, like, he's just better at picking than everybody, so everybody thinks he's a good blocker.
But here's the thing, dude, is like, and this is what I tell, because you find so many coaches who don't really know what they're talking about. Guy throws a ball in the dirt, right? And he doesn't get down to block it, and he like stabs at it, right? Real Muto is so good blocking because his glove is in a good position to pick the ball. I say it all the time. You essentially have to turn yourself into a first baseman in a sense. Like you would never see a first baseman stand up tall, balls in the dirt, and then throw their glove that way.
Yeah.
They're up and through the ball, right?
Yeah.
You watch Real Muto, he's just the most athletic catcher in baseball.
He's awesome.
And his glove is in the best position, optimal position to receive the ball, that it allows him to make late decisions, and his glove's in a good position to pick the ball, right? Because how many of those times on balls in the dirt are the balls really 55 feet? Those blocks that you're turning into blocks are actually like 58 feet, that they're an easy pick if you're just in a good position, like with your glove to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like understanding that. But most of the time, man, and I think from a youth level, I know I'm kind of bouncing all around here, but like at a youth level, kids get scared off of catching because it's so easy. Like, first off, you're the most vulnerable position on the field. You could be judged every pitch, right? Where if a shortstop was hit 150 ground balls, they're probably making how many errors?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And your pitcher on the mound dictates how you're going to look a lot of the time, too.
And, like, if the ball gets by, why didn't you block that? Well, the ball's in the fucking batter's box, and I'm trying to get my pitcher strikes. You know what I mean? So, like, it does take a little bit of knowledge and, like, what you're looking for to understand and, like, give kids the freedom to mess up. But as soon as the ball gets by, it's like,
Dude,
no, like, we got
it's crazy, like, hearing you talk about, like, the positioning and being, like, having the glove in the right position to receive it. I see so many catchers, even our own guys, on, like, low heaters, and they turn the glove over like they're gonna block it
because they're thinking block all the time.
Yeah, and it's like they're never just down here underneath of it and just catching it.
Yep.
It's like they're always moving and catching it in the air.
Yep. They see down. They see down. Dude, this is how I caught. Like in college, and this is why I was so fucking behind the 8 ball, is because as soon as I saw down angle, it was like I cannot let the ball get by me.
Yeah. Right.
But it's not allowing me to do like because I had some good hands, dude. Like I could catch the ball.
No,
I
you
just
were
did,
a very athletic.
That's
catcher.
it. Yeah, like I was converted infielder,
Yeah.
so like I had I had the ability to do it. Had no idea technique. My setup was dog shit. I'm jumping up, dude. I watched myself catch in the major leagues, and I want to vomit. It it upsets me, and I say to myself, dude, if I had any idea, right, what I know now about catching, because that like I struggled a lot of my career catching. Like I put a lot more stress on myself catching. Like hitting, I was kind of free. Yeah. Like I was just like, all right, I could go there, but it was also another part of it too was like as a catcher, I felt somewhat reliable for how that guy did on the mound, and like actually took pride in making sure like,
which is great.
I wanted his career, like this is his career that's somewhat like in my hands. You know what I mean? So like
it's you and him playing catch.
Taking ownership of a situation like that.
Exactly. Like and I got to a point where if I could go 0 for 4 if this guy got he went five innings of no run 1 run ball and had a quality start, like I was fucking juiced up.
Yeah, you can hang your hat on that day.
You know what I mean? Like I started to really really appreciate that part of it. Was like I helped that guy today. You know what I mean? Where like when I came up, dude, I didn't know. I just didn't know what I was doing. I look at it, I want to throw up. And I just like no, seriously, I hate it. I
remember when the couple times where you were a free agent and like everybody here like has some sort of ties still to people in positions.
Yeah.
So we're reaching out to people like seeing if we can help anybody out, help you out at the time. And like I remember, the guy I was talking to was like, yeah, he bangs, but like he don't receive worth a shit.
Yeah.
I'm like, really? Like I had no idea. I just thought you were good.
Yep.
And he's just like, like the guy we have in our AAA catcher is the best receiver in baseball.
So dude, it was so funny.
He has to be like somewhere around that, and he's not even close.
Dude, so it was so funny because with the Royals, they never gave you reports. So like they called me up to the big leagues. I never knew what my receiving metrics were like throughout my minor league career.
Which is ridiculous to not know.
I had no idea, right? No idea.
How does that serve anybody?
I get called up to the major leagues. They DFA'd me after the offseason, and they're like, yeah, he's got to receive better. We don't like the way he receives. I go to the Mets for 1 year. I was like a well above average receiver. My first year gone.
Right, because someone just told you had to get better at it.
Dude, the Rays signed me because of my receiving metrics with the Mets.
Right.
Yeah. Like the zones were like I look at my like the zone like because you get like a 20/80 scale at each part of the zone. Bottom of the zone, I just told you, if you threw a ball at the bottom of the zone, it was a fucking ball. They told me about that. The Mets, like when they signed me, right? This is what you got to improve on. I was like a 70 at the bottom. Right. 70. So I went from terrible to like
top tier.
Yeah.
Just by knowing
I had to do that and like changing my setup, changing the way I approached it, changed everything.
That's what I think.
And that gives you another year playing with somebody else.
That gives me another year playing with somebody else.
I think orgs like withholding information
from
players is so
stupidest fucking thing.
Just tell everyone if they can't handle it, it's their own fault.
That's it.
Yeah.
But
they'll use it if they want to.
Like, you want to judge me off of like this stuff, like let me know. I want to know how I'm progressing. It doesn't even serve the
organization.
I wish you go into spring training like, yo, U10, you're fine. U10, you're on the cusp. U10, you're probably getting released. Just tell us all and just be like, hey, all right, we'll figure it out.
And then tell the person why, though.
Yeah, also, to be coached, and they want to be told what they need to do better. Like that's how like really good like athletes and people like highly successful athletes in every sport, they want to be coached.
Yes.
They want to be told, all right, hey, like you can actually get better than you are. It's like, oh shit, really? What do I got to do?
Well,
just tell me. I'll do it.
This sort of ties in. I think it kind of ties into the conversation.
Tie it all in, Sam.
Yeah, I'm gonna before we wrap this up. But it just sort of talks about like kind of everything we've talked about. We talked about Chase, how he needs that slider. And I remember when I was coming up through high school, I was working with you guys about recruiting, and not that this came from you guys, but every coach you hear, they're like, you do this wrong, they're crossing you off the list. You know what I mean? You hear that. You blink 3 times, they're crossing you off the list. And I just remember being there like, how the fuck do I stay on the list? And it's like, through this whole thing, it's like develop skill. Like the best way to stay on the list is like if you're
Be
your
good.
strength. Yeah. If you know your strength, if you're the guy that bangs, like hits bombs, it's like, all right, how do I stay on the list? Be the guy that hits bombs and plays immaculate defense and can maybe run a little bit or shows he has some base running IQ. You know what I mean? Like developing the other skills that maybe go along with your most important strength. I mean, I know like sitting with 3 coaches here, like having that type of perspective on what you guys would look for in terms of what makes a player good and like able to move to the next level. It's like developing the maybe what they would consider secondary skills to make themselves like a well-rounded player. That's what gets you kept on the list. You know
Clipping this podcast up by Friday. Skills.
skills.
No, but and that's
I'm on the list.
But real quick, and that's what last point I want to make is like that's the importance of trusting who you put your trust into to like guide you in your career.
Yep.
These guys played it, they've seen it, they know what is sought after. We're not wasting time in here doing bullshit. It's like this stuff that we're doing, we're acquiring the skill that these people in positions that have total control over where you go in your career, this is what they're looking for.
Yeah.
So I'm giving you that information. I'm telling you, hey, you don't do this at this level. You don't expect to go there. Like you have to, like there's almost like a criteria that you have to hit.
You got to check some boxes.
You got to check some boxes. So it's like it's understanding those boxes. It's
And
not
you can
saying,
either
hey,
you can
gotta
either
hit
know the
400.
boxes ahead of time and go after it, or you can be mad when we say you don't meet these, and then when you get there and get released, get cut, don't make the team, then
Don't
at
be.
least, you know.
Yeah,
don't
we're
try to be
gonna
mad.
we're gonna die on the or fall on the sword on the side of we're gonna tell you everything.
Yeah.
Tell you the truth.
Yep.
You do with it what you want.
Yeah.
You don't if you want to be ignorant to it.
There you go. I
and
say
do
it all
yourself.
the time. You don't want to do it, dude. My time in the
not our
sun's over.
career.
That's
Yep.
you.
Yeah, and
It's
on
you.
top of it, it's like we'll tell you the truth and we'll help you fix it. But if you're not willing to put in those
Yeah,
out,
don't waste anybody's time.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's it.
Nick, we thank you being here. You want to plug where you're at, social media, anything like that?
Yeah, I mean,
if catching coach
if
soon.
you're a catcher, or you're looking for anybody to help you and avoid the mess that was my most of 8 years of my career and catching, I love it. I have a passion for it because I sucked so bad at it, and it took a lot for me to like learn to try to teach it. So you follow me, NJ Catching Guy. Post content. Reach out if you have any questions. I appreciate you guys having me. The setup is awesome. You guys are doing great things, and
Appreciate you coming, bro.
Yeah, we're gonna be using Nick more. We're gonna be bringing him, doing some catching clinics and stuff, and we're trying to set up some remote catching. It sounds like.
oh yeah, let's get remote catching
dialed
BPC.
in.
We're
Yeah.
dialing it.
Yes,
in.
sir. Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
I got one more thing I got to add in here because I got crushed for not saying it last time.
Throw it in, Eddie.
Got to throw Tan Man a shout out.
Oh, yes,
All
sir.
right, because we talked about the old BPC last week and everything that went into it and
My
all the
dad
help.
cried about it being called
And
a
I
shithole,
got
too.
murdered for not bringing up my dad for all the help.
Yeah, thanks, Tan.
And Mike's dad and
Tan Man.
we try to give these guys thanks and praise every time we can. And Mike's grandfather Ducky, who they allowed us the opportunity to be in that building and start this thing up. So got to make sure we give everybody their shout.
Clip it up.
It takes a village.
This is
As
your
if we-
official pod.
As if we've
shout
never
out.
done it, and if it doesn't happen on the podcast, it doesn't fucking matter. So we gotta say it and tell everybody, Tan Man, this is your shout out. Zip it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right,
Love you.
thank you, everybody. See you guys next week.